And it's about time. Okay, so let me introduce myself first, or will one of you will be doing it?
Hocam, like if you want, like I can just start with introduction and then give you the floor. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our webinar. As you know, like because like this is our second webinar, these webinars, these series of actually webinars are organized as part of the project Play and Learn English, Gamifying Language Teaching and Designing Game-Based Language Activities, run by Alparslan University ELT department and supported by US Embassy Ankara. In our first webinar, Professor Jeffrey Kuhn from Ohio University gave a speech about game mechanics. And in this second webinar, we have a distinguished guest and speaker, Professor Dr. Gonca Yaygın Ekşi from Gazi University English Language Teaching Department. She holds a PhD degree from ELT from Gazi University, and she has been working as like scholar and like a professor at the ELT department of Gazi University. And she has published many articles, scientific articles in distinguished journals on language teacher education and using ICT and like technology in foreign language classrooms. Today, like she is going to give us a speech on using ICT-based games in EFL classes. So, Hocam, thank you very much for being here with us. It is a great honor. The floor is yours.
Thank you, and I'd like to welcome everyone for this. We've been attending this webinar at the beginning of the weekend. Let me say, okay. Well, today I'm going to talk about ICT-based games, the concept of gamification, the potential of using games in language learning and teaching, a few examples of it, because the list cannot be exhaustive. When we are talking about technology, everything needs to be updated in very soon. And finally, I'm going to talk about one of the studies that we have done, let me say, about the potential, probably it will illustrate the potential of using games in language learning. Now, let me ask you a question. First of all, you can use the chat box. I'd like to see your answers. Which one would you prefer? Playing a game, socializing, and having fun, or studying or working, maybe finishing an assignment, or just reviewing previous work? A and B, let me say, which path would you like to take? And I'm just checking the answers. Playing a game. Yes, dear participants. Okay. Good. So can we say that, playing a game is not only for children? Okay. We generally associate it with children, but anyone, regardless of age, would somehow enjoy playing a game. Okay. So let's have a look at this one. Now, here's the question. Why do you like to play games? I'm not talking about technology-based games. I'm just talking about the game as a general factor in our lives, because it's fun. Sometimes it's a challenge. We like it. It's kind of novelty, a routine out of our, something else we do from the routines of our lives. We like the curiosity from exploration. It's the opportunity for socialization, creating friendship, or spending time, enjoyable time with friendships. You do role plays. It gives you an opportunity for creativity. It relieves your stress, and people enjoy the competition and cooperation aspect of it. Okay, that's why we like games regardless of our age. So children especially like games because this is how they learn, by the way. I've experienced. Okay, so here's another question. How can learning be more fun? The second path was about learning, okay, but it needn't be something quite different from the enjoyable things we associate with gaming, okay? So let's have a look. Games can be used in language learning and teaching. Any kind of learning in general, but also in language learning. Because what is positive is that language learning is hard work, actually, that requires a lot of time, commitment, effort on part of the learners. And it's not for a short time. It should be done over a considerable period of time. Because you cannot just study for an hour or 2 hours, maybe a week, and then become a proficient learner. So this requires some commitment and time. And if you integrate games in learning, probably it would help learners to sustain their energy, motivation, and interest in the learning. So this is in general. How about digital games? Technology is everywhere in our lives now. So how about digital games and language learning? They can be used for language learning because they create an environment for learning which higher engagement, motivation, and excitement, besides fostering cognitive attainment and retention. So we can say that ICT-based games can provide language learners with an authentic learning context, engaging and motivating learning experience through constructivist communicative activities and interactive tasks. When children engage in something in the game manner, they can do it in groups as well. And so it can be interactive. The communication might be authentic in that, and there might be a genuine reason to use the language and to handle things. So when we look at game-based language learning, we can say that, especially with the advancements in educational technologies, language learning context today is not limited to what we do in the classroom. Well, we advise the time spent outside to be somehow, some of it should be spared for language learning or being engaged in the language, getting input. And today we talk about screen time that people spend. So why not use some of this screen time for language learning? Also the games, it could be enriched and the effectiveness of it could be enhanced with the use of videos, animations, augmented virtual reality applications, and digital games. I'm talking about how we can enrich language learning through technology now. Now, how about this one? Studies show that multimedia supported supplementary learning environments could provide students with additional opportunities to study and improve their language learning efficiency. And what's more, digital games have the potential of offering an engaging and immersive environment where students could experience learning by doing, since they learn from their own mistakes with a trial and error-based approach. So here is the findings of some studies showing how digital games contribute to learning in general and language learning in particular. Studies show that digital games increase motivation. What else? Lower anxiety. Students are stated to develop positive attitudes towards the learning environment. They also enhance self-efficacy of the learners, increase interaction, perceptions towards this engaging and enjoyable learning environment as positive. Learners have more confidence and learner autonomy. And studies reveal also communication, engagement, and motivation on part of the learners. Okay. So here is a principled review of the study, quite a recent study that shows the findings of how digital games can contribute to language learning. It shows that, well, positively affects language learning from affective and psychological states, language and knowledge acquisition, and also some participatory behaviors and competencies. Also, when learning a language, digital games help learners acquire, vocabulary improvement, contribute to grammar learning, pronunciation, and also skills, language skills as well. Now, we can also think about what types, what type of games can be used for language learning. There are a variety of digital games actually, with different kind of experiences they offer for the participants or the users, players. There are some tutorial games, immersive games, simulations, adventure games, music games, board games, alternative reality games, or whatever. Now, let's come to this term. Have you ever heard of the term gamification? Using games, game-based learning possible, but what do we mean by gamification? Anyone? Let me check. Yeah, is based. I'm looking at the comments, for example. I happen to observe that, yeah, new generation of learners learn a lot more through games. They become more proficient. They learn incredible vocabulary by just playing games for fun, not for learning purposes. Okay, when we talk about gamification, what do we mean? Okay, let me give you the definition then. Because when you talk about using games in language learning, a term, yeah, definitely. Some keywords here, fun and badges. Good. When you win a game, what do you receive? You receive a reward. Okay, maybe a star, a smiley face, some badges, a trophy or whatever, coins. Okay, good. Basically, that's the idea. Well, in your regular practices, if you, insert these rewards, let me say, game-like elements, actually you're implementing some gamification principles. Okay, so let's have a look. Here is the word gamification was coined by Nick Pelling about 2002 and generally described as the use of game elements and game design techniques in a non-game context. So basically your classroom is a regular, you might have some regular practices. Sometimes you might use some games in your language learning. This is okay, game-based learning or using games in language teaching. This is something we are familiar with. Gamification is slightly different. It's actually using the game elements that, how can I say, those aspects that drive you, motivate you in a non-game environment, and thus increase motivation and maybe engagement. So, especially with the mobile applications, okay, we have gamification. By the way, when we talk about gamification, it's not only education, but also, commerce, trading, how can I say, increasing your shopping habits. They are used for those purposes as well, okay? So the aim is to motivate you. You can be a learner, you can be someone doing online shopping or whatever. So it is also defined as the use of game elements and game design techniques in non-game context, as I've said before. Good. Now, what are the game elements here that we're talking about? Points, badges, leaderboards, progression, some quests, levels, moving up to another level, some avatars, social elements, and rewards, coins, whatever you have said. You might be a practicing teacher or a student teacher. I don't know, but just tell me. even if as an adult, do you play games? And I mean, do you become competitive? Would you like to win something? Or do you happen to notice students are motivated, even with a smiley face you draw on their notebook? Or just a sticker, okay? Receiving stickers from the teacher. Even adult learners are motivated. They like it, they think it is fun, and they like to have those stickers, okay? That's the basic instinct, okay? Kind of reward. So maybe you should look at some concepts here. In game-based learning, actually, this is more described as something like using already existing games and integrating them into the teaching and learning context. I mean, basically using games in language learning, okay? Mainly, of course, the purpose is to have fun and learn together. Simulations are virtual environments. You role play, or just you fake the interaction. And the interaction is essential for the learner to practice the skill and knowledge. And we have some serious games that are the games, prepared with an educational purpose. The entertainment is not the primary focus here. Learning is the primary, but of course, there might be some, whenever there's game, probably there would be some element of fun, actually. So in gamification, actually, we use some game elements that we have taught, such as badges. Going up one level, or having a better avatar or something like that as a motivator. And it could be used as a form, assessment tool of your learners. How many stars or badges your students have collected at the end of the term. And this, each objective, okay, a step can be seen as a challenge to move one step forward. And of course, it provides a stress-free environment for learning. So the key element here is the rewarding system. Points, badges, leaderboards, seeing yourself at the top of the list based on your performance. And this would probably increase motivation and engagement. And the idea is that there is a challenge, actually, or a problem to be solved, and there's generally more than one way to handle it. And rather than giving grades, maybe your students would be collecting badges, coins, smileys, or whatever. So probably these are the well-known ones. For example, Kahoot. Okay, it was innovative a few years ago, but today, it's a common practice. Okay, people might be a bit even bored from it, but the idea is that quickly your students would be, enrolled in it, and they will. The idea is getting the highest point, but in the, shortest time, immediately giving the answers, and it's fun. Okay, the idea is giving you words again. How about Class Dojo? Have you ever heard of it? Happened to see it? Let me see if anyone is familiar with it. Yes. I don't know if you ever used it or, participated in it in any context. But the idea is it's kind of creating a classroom environment where a social environment, actually. You connect with your students, you connect with the parents maybe, and you manage your classes. Your students may receive some rewards based on what they do as positive or rewarding, such as, for example, handing in assignments on time, making a presentation, a good performance, and receiving some badges for that. Or there might be some, unwanted behavior, such as interrupting, okay, no homework or whatever. So keeping a record of your students in that way, okay, and maybe getting an overall performance is, well, these are using the game elements in integrating it in a non-game context. This is what I mean, actually. So let me go ahead Well, there are a lot of applications that you can use for gamification, or actually any internet-based games for language learning as well. Today, for example, one of them is Duolingo. It's a gamified educational application again, which is specifically for language learning, where based on the performance, you see your performance as a participant. Okay, levels, what you have achieved. Now, as I said, we cannot talk about an exhaustive list of ICT games in English or gamification tools that we can integrate, because every 6 months probably there will be tens of new ones. Technology is, developing so fast. But I'm going to talk about how games can be used in language learning in creative ways. Here's the study, actually. I'm one of the co-authors. The idea, well, this is a book chapter in IGI Publishing, if I'm not mistaken, Acquiring 21st Century Literacy Skills Through Game-Based Learning. The whole book is related with game-based learning principles and how they can be integrated in learning. Language learning plus other 21st century literacy skills. So it's the general one. Now, what this chapter that I'm going to talk about is using a game-based content, using game-based principles in a language class, but integrating it with CLIL principles. Well, let me just check if you're familiar with CLIL. So before we go on, let me say, so using a game in the classroom is okay. We do it every time with different group of learners. Using ICT games is still possible, but if you just broaden your perspective, you can integrate a lot of things with game-based principles. Let me check what content-based learning. Yeah, okay, similar. CLIL is content and language integrated learning. And basically, what is it? What is the content here? For example, studying what? In the very basic, well-known way, it is, for example, studying history in English, okay? Studying what, for example, studying science in another language. Basically, CLIL has dual aims, actually. Studying a subject area with a language that is not the native language of the learners. The dual aim is learning about the content, but not studying the language itself, using it as a tool for communication, learning, and benefiting from both of them. Okay. Typically, CLIL lessons might be about history, studying history, geography, studying geography, science, or whatever. But if you are creative, you can study other things as well. How about environmental awareness? Okay. Topics such as global citizenship education, environmental awareness. That chapter is about creating a game, an ICT game in English, and the topic was environmental awareness. So it was a CLIL lesson, or it was a part of a CLIL practice about environmental awareness. The game was created for that. And the short, abbreviation is ENVI English, environmental English, or something like that. I'd like to thank my co-authors for the joint study. It was, a great study. We studied together and I enjoyed it through a little. So let's have a look at it. Okay. So that is the idea. The thing is, okay. that's what I've said actually. I mean, teaching a foreign or second language involves more than teaching about the language. Actually, that was the traditional practice which we criticize today. We don't teach the language, we don't teach about the language. Language teaching should be for effective communication. And English language teachers, we shouldn't, we never teach English itself. I mean, grammar, whatever. Language learning should focus on other subject matter as well. I mean, the themes that we deal with can be anything actually, because, well, the aim is communication, so we can talk about, I mean, books, celebrities, or any other subject matter. We can bring real world issues into the classroom. English is the medium here, or the tool to discover. So in a similar way, we can also foster 21st century skills through learner autonomy, group work, projects, or communicative games. To meet the demands of the 21st century, a new generation of digital native learners, language teaching should be incorporated with cross-curricular subjects, which is kind of CLIL actually. And that practice can also be enriched with educational technologies. And in this study, the idea was to incorporate digital games and green practices together to improve students' awareness of the environment, understanding environmental sustainability, and having a CLIL lesson enriched with a digital game, actually. So what we did was actually, the study aims to investigate how English language learning K-12 students and their teachers perceive the game developed in terms of its pedagogical and visual design, and from the point of view of students about English language and environmental awareness gains. To this end, an educational digital game was developed in line with the CLIL framework. That is, the game can be used with dual aims of improving English and science education for the target group of learners. The hidden agenda was that, I mean, language, dealing with the language in a meaningful way, in a communicative way, but also enhancing environmental awareness of students, while, of course, studying English. Besides, students are able to learn with a trial and error-based approach, and which would be more engaging to present the issue to the students rather than, I mean, traditionally reading about it or, I mean, summarizing it. So that is, I mean, well, by the way, this is something, an application that you can download and try. I can share the drive link with you, okay? You can download it, but on Android devices. We don't have an iOS version of it yet, but if you have an Android version, okay, you can download it. I'm going to show you the screenshots of how to do it. You download it and you have a short information about here, which shows that the idea is to prevent climate change by collecting stars. So look at, is it an ICT-based game? Yes. Do I learn about environmental awareness? Yes, but are there some gamification elements? Yes, you have to give the correct answers and collect stars. And this is how you prevent climate change. I mean, reverse, dangers to the climate or whatever. So to prevent climate change, you have to answer the questions about pollution, drought, forest fires, and poles. I mean, the ice on the poles probably. As you answer the questions correctly, you will collect stars and you will be able to move on to the next level. So that's the idea. Give the correct answer, collect the stars, move on to the next one. And when you finish it all, okay, you will have, I mean, help saving the environment, the world. The symbols are here. The locked ones are the questions that you don't have access because you have to move on a stepwise fashion. And when you unlock them, you move on to the next step. That was the idea. And this is, I mean, when you download it, this is what you see. Continent, more or less, okay? You start with one of the continents, and when you collect enough stars, you move on to the next continent and the next continent, and then to the polar region, and then you answer it all. I'm going to show you some example questions now, not all of them. Then I will share you the link. Okay, you start with something like that, and the background is about some environmental problems. Here is one of the questions. Okay, you just click on it. When only after you answer it correctly, you move on to the next one. Something like that. Greenhouse gases in the atmosphere cause which one? This could be handled maybe after you have watched the video or studied this environmental protection somehow, and this is the game version of it. Integrating your students, maybe revising what they have learned, or engaging them for further research or whatever. Okay, when they give the correct answer, they move on. So the upcoming questions or the backgrounds or something like that. Okay, plastic on the oceans, forest fires, melting ice, or what. So before going on, okay, just let me check. I want to share the link with you, okay? Because if you have an Android device, as I've said, just wait for it. By the way, if you have time, you could just try it, okay? Okay, so well, we can say that, okay, that was just an example. But the thing is, when we introduce digital games, we never say that they will be a replacement for the books or whatever. The thing is, they would be enriching complementary and supplementary activities. By the way, how to integrate games or which games to pick up is important, because they shouldn't be played for the sake of playing a game. We should think about how it would serve our pedagogical aims, learning aims. And also the cognitive load should be taken into the consideration, because sometimes handling it or being a distraction can be also, a question to handle. What else? We can say that, No, educational and digital games should particularly be designed according to the instructional and multimedia design principles in order to achieve the goals of teaching. Not just because we find them fancy or just to, spend 10 or 15 minutes. And teachers should be equipped with the game-based learning pedagogy within teacher education programs, both theoretically and practically. Okay, thank you for listening. And if you have any questions or anything you would like to share, you can do that. If you like, if you like to read more about the game and the findings of the game, that is the book chapter, actually. I'm just checking the chat box. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Test questions. Teşekkür ediyorum hepinize. Good. Yes, gentlemen. Do you think it's best when we use gaming with real life aspects in it? Ooh. I mean, games which require some skills that we can use in real life, you mean? The more relevant they are, okay. But I mean, games are also just played for fun, okay? You might have a hidden agenda or some, how can I say, they can have fun and byproduct, they can learn something or skills. Yes, well, clearly the common practice, especially in Europe, but unfortunately, I don't know why, it's so rare in Turkey. Only some private schools, okay, claim that they have CLIL programs. But what I mean is, CLIL can be a regular practice that we can integrate in our classrooms, because the typical topics that we study in classes, I don't know, sports, cinema, well, possible, we can do that. But why not, I mean, use other subject area? And also, if you look at a wider perspective, CLIL is any topic, any content learning. It could be, I mean, sustainable development, okay, environmental awareness, gender equity, or such kind of topics can also be studied as, I mean, values that we want our students to acquire. So CLIL is so broad, and why not integrate some games or gamification principles in your regular practices? Everybody, even at my age, if I were at a class, if I just would sit there, I would like to have some stars, badges, or whatever, no matter what my age is or whatever. Anything else? Okay, then. Thank you for listening to me.
Hocam, thank you very much for this wonderful and informative talk. Like it was like very good to listen to you. And like one more time, let's ask again if any questions. If there's any questions, you are free to ask.
Okay, then. Thank
That's
you.
all. Thank you very much again. It was great having you.
Okay, have a good night and have a nice weekend, please.